Chapter 4 is the best one so far. Like, I don't think it's even worth arguing against. Even as much love and as much appreciation I have for the other chapters, even as much as I owe to Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, I cannot be biased here. Good God. Literally, I kind of consider this to be the magnum opus of all things annoying dog, and it's like, yeah, how could I not? The gameplay has never been this engaging or dynamic. The stakes have never felt this high. The tone of this story has never been so dire, yet so heartfelt. And beyond that, it just looks and sounds amazing. The ending of Chapter 3 leading into this sort of establishes, alright, we're halfway through, this is the game's turning point, this isn't just a fun, lighthearted adventure with friends anymore, no. There are real, serious stakes at play. People's lives, the future of both worlds as a whole is endangered. And things begin to take on more of a dark, heavy feel, and that tonal shift is perfectly encaptured by the little things. Things like, from now on, replacing Rude Buster as the default battle theme, which, as much as I adored Rude Buster, had to happen. From now on, still possesses the fun spirit of Deltarune, but now feels a lot more weighty and dramatic, which fits perfectly with the new tone the game's taken on. Like there was this sense of general unease playing through this, uncertainty. It felt like this silly little world these guys would come to have fun now has this dark, worrisome undercurrent infecting it. I could probably spend hours just talking about the music of this chapter, which yeah, Tree, Fountain, Forest, these games have incredible music, I know. But I genuinely think this chapter's soundtrack breaks the very laws of physics and logic just to exist. It's bat nut insane. Not only does it capture each story beat absolutely perfectly, but it captures the treacherous tone of this chapter. The music consistently brings up old ideas from past chapters and even from Undertale, and then completely subverts them into bearing a new meaning, which is really what this chapter is all about. Now, I could be wrong, but I feel like it's definitely the longest chapter. Like, there's easily a solid hour or so of content before the main plot even starts. You got the hilarious fake Mike boss fight, all the other new additions to Castletown, and a lot of great stuff in Hometown too. The church stuff, iconic. If churches in real life sold sick fruit juice, I might actually go back. The diner scene, the black screen with some text over it, is randomly really touching. You can't miss it. And then there's the cool-ass lesbian stuff as to be expected. I really love this whole sequence. Not only do you get a ton of insight and chemistry with Noelle and Susie, and a little bit of insight regarding Des, who canonically smoked the weed with Asriel, but more importantly, the Chris stuff. Somehow this is all funny, scary, sad, and compelling, all at the same time. Chris tries to beat the shit out of you with a hockey stick while you listen to the gays gossip about how good Chris is at flirting. It's just so good. Peak. I want to throw in here, I don't think enough people are mentioning how great the gag / potential legitimate story beat is, that Susie consistently says things regarding Chris that are supposed to be totally platonic and innocent, but Noelle just misinterprets that, leading to just way overcompensation. It's hilarious. But as funny as that is, this segment is also really depressing. The first thing Chris does as soon as they free themselves from our control for just a small handful of minutes is, they don't go straight to enacting their secret plan demanded of them by Knight / Gaster / Mike / Friend Cat / Carol Holiday. No, instead they binge drink chocolate milk and play the piano, things they clearly really care about but aren't able to do anymore because of us. We've always heard so much about how skilled Chris is at piano, how much they've always loved it, but unwillingly we've taken that away from them somehow, and seeing how that's paid off later on, seeing Chris, still possessed by us, finally take control and play in order to progress, seeing Susie and Rouse egg them on to keep playing, it's just, it speaks for itself. I don't know. Chapters 3 and 4, more than anything else, give Chris so much more character and expression they already overwhelmingly had, and the fact that some people still misconstrue them for being a simple player insert character, usually just so they can misgender them, is nothing short of absolutely fucking ridiculous to me. That's one of the reasons I think this chapter is so great. Each of the 3 main characters honestly get a fair share of the spotlight here, more than before at least. Like Chris, obviously there's the stuff I already said, and then there's Rouse, who arguably might actually be the star standout of this chapter if there just has to be one. I mean, very arguably, but still arguably. It's just so odd because, I always liked Rouse, okay, but he sort of felt kind of gimmicky, like he was just the zesty, cutesy one, I guess, and that was it. His biggest thing seemed to be whatever secret he was hiding, the question of if he was secretly evil or not, which I'm so glad that's not the path these new chapters went in. Chapter 2 set up this idea of Rouse to some extent be beginning to explore himself. He gets distracted in his role as a butler, funnily enough. Then eventually he asks Chris at one point, what does it even mean to be Rouse? Who is that? And Chapter 3 continues that super well. Like, it practically cold opens with Rousey confessing what we already sorta knew, and that's that, he can't go into the light world. His purpose is to serve the Lightners, and he doesn't really have much beyond that. He isn't real in the same way someone like Susie, or someone like Chris, or someone like Noelle is, or Birdley. I don't know why I'm being specific about him, but I am. But throughout the chapter, Rousey really starts enjoying things for himself. He gets lost playing RPGs, where he sorta starts off just following Chris around, but with Susie's influence, who's been consistently defying the player's will since Chapter 1, he's eventually placed in the role of the player, making all the decisions himself, doing things, having fun himself. He starts forming his own opinions, and in Chapter 4, he eventually ends up actually trying his own cooking, since he's never done anything for himself before. Everything he ever did was for the Lightners, and he still keeps that up. He still tries to keep Susie from discovering this apparently horrible truth about the prophecy that we still don't know, because the dog is evil incarnate, I swear to God. Rousey still tries to make the Dark Worlds this fun little escape for her and Chris, but sorta fails because of how serious and grim and filled with tension everything's become. He still has this anxiety of not knowing how or when to put the knowledge he's been cursed with to good use, but even then, now, he's beginning to see himself as an actual real person, and I think the most interesting part of that is how the other characters contribute to that growth. Again, that's something really great I think Chapter 4 specializes in. Like in the previous chapters, the characters will all have lots of internal things going on, but most of the time, those things don't really, they don't entangle with each other. Chris's struggle for autonomy is separate from Susie becoming more comfortable being herself. Rousey's growing desire to be his own guy is separate from Noelle's inability to stand up for herself. But here, you truly get to see almost of those things come together. You get to see the three main pro-tags help each other out with their own individual stuff. Susie and Chris both encourage Rousey to pursue their own personhood, even if you command Chris not to, which is such a cool moment for like 7,000 different reasons, and it also sort of single-handedly kills off that stupid-ass Chris secretly hates Rousey theory. Rousey and Chris both help Susie fully accept her role in this prophecy as a super hopeful, heroic figure, and Rousey and Susie both support Chris in playing the piano again, and most importantly, in literally taking bullets for them when they're expected to take the bulk of the damage. Like, oh my god, what a great sequence. No joke, these three guys make me so mentally unwell. Like, it's kind of a generic trope, but I don't give a shit. The story is so good that it doesn't matter. All stories use tropes. Tropes are stories. That's what gives them life. And this trope, this whole if friendship is kind of cool thing, whatever, it's done so well in spite of all that's happened during the last two chapters, in spite of all the tension and all the misunderstandings. Their bond's only gotten stronger, and it's so awesome. Like, the final boss here is so epic and feels so well built up to, considering how well the Titans and the Roaring have been set up. Like, this was the perfect place to leave off until next time. But I think this chapter really establishes Susie as the main character of this story, which is already sort of clear, but never quite to this level. And you know how? Well, the thematic elements are stronger than ever here, and I think a lot of people, myself included, thought this chapter would focus on religion and how it's used as a form of escapism, which I mean, it sorta kinda did. It takes place in a church and explores the history and lore of this prophecy, of this religion, more in depth than anything else before it, after all, but the chapter really highlights the core of Deltarune's metanarrative about stories in the same way it focuses on each of the three characters, which, given it's the point where everything kinda changes, I think was the best possible direction to take the story in. I did see a lot of people rejoice that the story didn't go in a whole religion bad direction, which, sure, I guess could have been more generic. Well, I wouldn't minded it, because, religion bad. Sorry. Listen, I think religion is the most evil thing in the world. I think all the great evils of the world ultimately tie into and stem from religion somehow, but instead of focusing on that way too much like it easily could have, this series continues to be the change it clearly wants to see. That's a problem I have with a lot of modern storytelling. Hell, not even modern storytelling. Like, look at Star Wars, for example. Now, I love Star Wars, but like, alright, we're given a world dominated by this imperialist regime, which really sucks. And it ends with that regime being overthrown, which is really cool, except we don't really know what this rebellion is truly fighting for, other than freedom is cool, democracy is cool. Like, how are they going to take the shattered remnants of this galaxy and turn it into a better place? We don't know, and they never bother telling us. They want to restore the Republic, I guess, which might have been nice if the prequels didn't show us that, actually the Republic was totally corrupt and not much better than the Empire, really. I mean, my favorite part of Star Wars is the transition between the Republic and the Empire, showing how evil and fascism corrupts a government from within. But even then, we don't really know the rebellion's vision for a proper government. Honestly, the New Republic falling apart in the sequels kind of makes sense when you think of it that way, and it would have been a good narrative choice if, well, the sequels didn't make the exact same narrative choice of not really showing us a better potential unsettled future. At this point, the only possible reality for the Star Wars universe is bad guys take over galaxy, good guys defeat bad guys immediately come back and take over again, repeat. Which, hey, looking at the real world, looking at what's really happening in the US right now, I mean, honestly, it might be more realistic than anything else in that universe. But Undertale prided itself on not doing that. We're shown an underworld of monsters betrayed, cast here and trapped by humanity, suffocating under this small little mountain. If there's an excuse to paint a society of dark, bleak hopelessness, it's here, but no. Instead, we're shown genuine hope for a better future, for a society of peace between the two races, which is really refreshing. And Deltarune does the same with his church. We see a religion based in, well, actual reality, whose whole point is pretty much boils down to be nice to people. It's a strong, caring, tolerant community that offers sick-ass fruit juice. Like, this is what religion should be if it just has to exist, and I think painting an optimistic picture of what could be, instead of just a grim, gray, depressing one of what is so much more compelling and important. And this chapter focuses more so on the ideas that religion provides, the comfort it provides to people, not necessarily religion itself, the hope, the guidance, the purpose people glean from religion. And I think that was the perfect direction for it to go in. Whatever, that's all well and good, but please God, let me talk about Gerson Boom. I would die for this frickin' turtle. He's essentially this game's Yoda, and his sage wisdom, disguised by common old man tomfoolery, sort of drives these characters through Chapter 4's seemingly daunting challenges. And it's like, considering who this character is and what he's done, both here and in Undertale, it just makes way too much sense. And that brings me back to Susie, who's just the best character. It's a lot like this game mechanically, comparing her to her portrayal in Chapter 1, just like comparing Chapter 4 to Chapter 1 in terms of visuals, of gameplay, of story. It's insane to see how far things have come, while still feeling the same. The second Sanctuary bit is a great showcase of that. Like, at one point, Susie makes her own dark world, and it's one of the coolest parts in the entire series, because it stems from Susie's mind, and because each dark world is different, it's essentially the first Sanctuary, the first dark world from this chapter, but viewed from a different angle, different colors, different physics, different puzzle mechanics, different enemies, things the first Sanctuary set up, like these stone figures coming to life. It's so effing rad. And most importantly, a background song perfectly capturing her undying yet naive and rugged hope. Honestly, this might as well just be Susie's theme at this point. It is magical stuff. She finally gets a positive role model in the form of Gerson, who, despite being dead in the light world, is represented via piles of his own dust in the dark world or whatever. And it is somehow some of the best storytelling in all of Deltarune. Gerson's the guy who wrote this hugely influential Lord of the Hammer novel series based on the religious prophecy of the Deltarune, and he sorta helps Susie recognize and accept her own potential and her sheer hopeful spirit, likening her to the dragon from his own story. And in what I can't help but believe is a metaphor for the artistic process, Gerson even tells her to keep doing the things she likes even though she sucks at it, because it might be hard now, but that's the only real way to improve, and that hits way too close to home for me. I also really love Gerson being the secret boss here, because while he's not dark or creepy or evil or anything, thematically, it still makes complete sense. He doesn't really believe in prophecy that everything is set in stone. He encompasses the spirit of freedom that's so inherent to these secret bosses so well, and it's something no one would have ever expected despite it clicking just right into place.
Gerson is able to, more than anyone or anything else, encapsulate these games' themes and tie them all together.
Gerson, the great author, makes a ton of points about storytelling. I like this one part where he says, quote, "There's no better story than one told with sparkling eyes, that it's doubt and irony and predictability that poisons a story," which Susie, being Susie, has none of, but I think it's best demonstrated in this another scene. After the secret boss fight, after Susie wins, like I said, Gerson brings up his own story and its influence, and Susie's all like, oh, it wasn't Dragon Blazers based on it, that being this in-universe RPG that I really wish were real because it sounds cool as hell. Oh wait, that's what I'm playing, isn't it? And Gerson responds with what's honestly one of the most insightful and profound monologues about art that Deltarune's ever presented, that I've heard in any game really. And so they changed parts of the story. Of course, the biggest fans got mad, but isn't it interesting? The book was already just an interpretation of something else. Stories can be retold, they can be changed. That's what I believe. It's a perfect encapsulation of what makes stories great, of what makes Deltarune great. It is Undertale's parallel story after all, but it's not just the same thing, it's different, it's new, in the same way that it's not Earthbound or Chrono Trigger or Homestuck again either.
And that's the exact same thing Deltarune and all great stories do. Sure, I love brand spanking new ideas and concepts, but those things, they can only flow from the stories of old, using tropes, pieces of old tales forged to make new ones, and that is the power of stories retold, the magic of stories reborn, and that's something that should be celebrated. It's something that shouldn't be scorned or mocked like it is so often, and it's a power that's not easy to wield by any means, but when it's done well, it's obvious that it is where the heart of all great stories lie.
Creatives, artists, whatever you call them, they shouldn't be ashamed, nor should they be criticized for simply using a widespread trope found in other things, because it's the execution that matters. It's what's done with that trope that really matters. At Deltarune, Undertale, honestly most indie games, their creators are generally super transparent about what games, whether they're pieces from other mediums, influence their creations. Most of the time it's apparent to those in the know just by playing the damn thing. And that's not a bad thing at all. Inspiration isn't the same as ripping something off, doing the same thing again with no variants. It's not in any way a disservice to what's come before. No. When done right, it's the purest way of keeping that original work spirit alive. Not just by emulating it in some ways, but also by perpetuating its legacy. I mean, I don't think games like Brandish or Off or Cave Story or this one I don't know how to pronounce, or even bigger ones like Chrono Trigger or Earthbound would be anywhere near as discussed as they still are in the modern day, if not for indie titles like Undertale and Deltarune paying homage to them, which is just beautiful to see. I brought up earlier my failure to get why some games influenced by Undertale tried playing things so close to the hip. But I understand now that simply saying, my game's inspired by this other game, and that putting that inspiration on full display, that's not ripping that original work off by any means at all. And I honestly think a lot of my original position came from sheer insecurity. I've always been sort of a perfectionist. Well, not sort of, it's really my whole thing. But the problem is my being a perfectionist kinda contradicts the fact that I suck donkey ass at everything I try to do. So that doesn't work out super well for me. I always want everything I make to be extremely creative and new and interesting and awesome. Like, oh god, who wants to have tropes or cliches? Those things are evil and unoriginal, which I see now is bullshit. Just using those same concepts with a new twist, sometimes not even with a new twist, that's not unoriginal, that's straight up just how you tell a story. I've tried telling stories done with never before done ideas, and well, I can't. Those ideas simply don't exist. Art imitates life. All these tropes are based somewhere out in reality, and sure, I might not be the most creative guy ever, but it's like, that's just the nature of how stories are.
The truth is that I have a lot of faith in myself, faith I probably really shouldn't have, because I know deep down that I have what it takes to make something great, something that matters. I just don't know if my own insecurities, my own self-criticism will completely destroy any chance I have at actually making it through. If the short time span I have on this shitty-ass, beautiful little rock will ever even amount to anything. I think that deep down, everyone wants that same validation. They want the things they pour their bleeding hearts into to be successful and to be loved, and I won't lie, I mean, I want that too. But the truth is, that's just not why I do this anymore. Not just for validation or anything like that, no, I solely do this for me. Because maybe my game won't make a difference, maybe nobody will care about it, but at the very least it will, to me, prove that my life and my story matters. That it was enough to pull through and make something of. I just want to make something I can be proud of for once. I just want to be able to be proud of myself for once, and those things, they really aren't the same, because I've seen 1,000 great games come and go, die in complete obscurity, and you know what? I've come to peace with that. Because I've never made anything work. I've never been happy. I've always felt like my own failure was preordained, predetermined, but as long as I can subvert my own fate, as long as I can escape that, as long as I can be proud of myself, not hate myself, I think I can finally be happy for once, and that's all I want now. Because after all this time, after all this stress, after all this struggle, as corny as it sounds to say, it's true, I too finally have hope crossed on my heart. Hope that I can finally escape my own predestined failure. Because at the end of the day, I don't have another choice. I don't have anything else. I don't have a life. I go to work, I work for 10 to 12 hours, I come home, work on my stupid little game for a few hours, go to bed. I don't have anything else. This is all I am, and this is all I have, and this is all I've ever had. For the past 6 years, this is all I've done, to varying degrees. I mean, I never really actually got started on this project until much more recently, but I spent those years putting it off, dreading, crying, just wallowing in my own misery, but that's not something I can do anymore. Because this, making art, making my game, my own little world, it's the one thing that gives me the rapidly waning sense of courage to get out of bed every morning that other people thrive on. It's the one thing that gives me any sense of fulfillment, any sense of hope. I can't just leave that behind now. I can't move on. The risk, the struggle, the constant, never-ending anxiety every second of the day that this could fail, that I've wasted the supposed best years of my life, that it was all for nothing. That's all that keeps me going forward now. The comparison to other great things that drives me to try to make great things. That's what keeps me going, and I think Deltarune was always a great example of that, as far back as I can remember.
Especially something like Chapter 4, which felt like this incredible unleashing of something that's been built up for so long, a very warranted flaunting of sheer talent and creative passion. And that's something that really stuck with me, because I think the main guy behind the game's development sort of knew that, because I'll be real, what he did took balls. You spend over a decade curating this story, meticulously crafting it into this perfect little narrative and slowly easing people into this world you constructed, which started with, by the way, something that became a massive pop culture phenomenon, maybe one of the biggest ones of the 2010s, something that changed lives, something with the widespread reputation of being one of the greatest games of all time, and you only go on to make something that is in a lot of departments even better afterwards, something you've sunk again over a decade into. And it surpasses everyone's already astronomical expectations. And thinking about myself, there have just been so many times I look at that. I look at something like Deltarune or Hollow Knight or a lot of the other indie hits, for example, and I think, God, there's just no way I could ever make something that lives up to those games, the games that I loved, the very thing so fundamental to making me who I am. And it's like, yeah, I probably can't, but that's why the whole artistic premise of Deltarune appeals to me so much. Again, specifically in Chapter 4.